Hi everyone, and welcome to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. Hi, I'm Will Brown, WordPress consultant and educator. I help WordPress designers and developers get more clients and increase their monthly revenue to build sustainable, profitable businesses. Now, how many of you only offer PayPal payments on your WooCommerce website? Data shows that by offering multiple payment methods, on your online shop, it really does lead to an increase in conversion rates. So are you ready to take credit card payments on your WooCommerce website? So today I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide on how to set up Stripe with WooCommerce. But first, before we start, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and ding that bell if you're on YouTube to get my latest video updates. Also, join us on the Facebook group, which is WordPress Sydney Meetup there. And also check out wpaustralia.org as well for all the WordPress meetups that are happening across Australia, and to join our Slack group for WordPress Australia as well. Let me know who you are and where you're from in the comments below. I'm using a different microphone today. I've got a lapel microphone, so I'm setting myself free. So if it sounds a little bit different, that's why. You can let me know if there's a clear difference in the comments between that. Okay, we've got a few people online. We've got Mr. Miyakus. Hi there, how are you doing? We've got Jean as well from a cloudy Central Coast. Jean, it's not looking so much better here in Sydney either. We've got Dorothy as well. Dorothy is coming from California, Santa Barbara, California. Hi, Dorothy. Thank you for joining me today. If you are a web developer or designer who creates and maintains client websites, I've got the Ultimate Website Owner Survival Guide, which will help you add recurring revenue to your business. So visit wasg.com.au if that's you. And just a few notes here. In the next in-person monthly evening WordPress Sydney meetup is on the last Monday of every month. So this one is on July the 25th. You can RSVP at meetup.com WordPress-Sydney. And I'm going to be talking about switching to Google Analytics 4. If you don't know, if you haven't heard, Google is sunsetting the Analytics Universal. So Universal Analytics is going to be gone by next year. So you really should be transitioning to Google Analytics version 4. So if you are around in the next month, come and visit me in person, network, get to chat to people in real life, eat some pizza, network, and I'll tell you about how to switch to Google Analytics 4 as well. We've got a few other people coming in. We've got Steve from California, US. That's two people from California. I'm on a roll. Thanks very much for joining today. We've got Alan in Annandale. And we've got Mr. Slater from Thailand. Welcome, Mr. Slater. Steve, you are one of those people. Great, thanks to have you on board. Okay, I'm always looking for suggestions. I've queued up quite a lot of WP Quickies throughout the month, but I'm looking for some more topics. So if there's anything that you would like me to talk about, roughly in about 20 minutes or less, you can fill out that form and just let me know, and I can queue them up for the rest of the year. Okay, let's jump into this. I'll just change this a little bit here. Let's get into today's talk, which is setting up WooCommerce with Stripe. So let's take a little bit of a backseat. Let's rewind a little bit and talk about what are webhooks. Now, webhooks, they allow disparate or separate applications to share information together really, really easily. There are generally only two ways for apps to communicate. And that's polling and webhooks. Now, polling is where you ask an app if it has any information to offer, similar like asking your friends if they would like another round of drinks in the pub, for example. Webhooks are simply just giving information to an app on each occurrence. So in the similar kind of analogy above, it would be you simply go up to the bar and buy a round of drinks and bring them to your friends with no questions asked. So two ways to talk to websites: polling, where you ask it for information, and webhooks, where you just send information. And we're basically talking about the latter one. We're talking about webhooks today. Now, if you want a little bit more detailed description about webhooks, watch my October 2020 WP Quickies on WooCommerce webhooks. The link is there. I'll drop that in the comments as well. But I go a little bit more in depth about what webhooks are and how they're used within that WP Quickies. Steve is asking, what's the link to the book? It is was.com.au. There we go. I've dropped that in the comment. You can have a look at that later. Steve, thanks for asking. Okay, so Stripe versus PayPal. Let's have a look at some of the big hitters here. Forbes released an article on March 2022 about PayPal versus Stripe comparison, and I'll pop that down. I'll put all the links in the meetup page and underneath the video description afterwards if you want to get those links anyway. So that article there is a really good authoritative read for a detailed comparison between the two services, Stripe versus PayPal. Now, both PayPal and Stripe offer a very similar online payment services, and their processing fees are also pretty similar. But in general, PayPal has a larger brand recognition and user base as well. And it's suited really for small businesses and individuals who are just kind of starting out. Because people know and identify the PayPal brand, it's more likely that a lot more people are probably going to have PayPal versus like a credit card or debit card when you're initially starting out. Now, PayPal is super easy to set up and it requires little to no technical knowledge, which again is why a lot of people use PayPal initially. Stripe, however, is probably best suited for established and growing businesses because Stripe offers multiple ways to customize the brand and the checkout, and also different payment options as well, which is going to be likely you're going to probably need to get some sort of developer involved for that. So again, the more complex nature of Stripe and the fact you probably have to get a developer involved probably kind of puts that more into the kind of category of established and growing businesses rather than the first timer. And that's where you tend to see a lot of new shops that are starting up just have PayPal as an option for payments. Okay, so let's have a look at the new player. The new player is WooCommerce Payments. And this plugin, it kind of appeared probably late 2021. WooCommerce Payments brings your PayPal and your credit card payments kind of together and managed directly from the WordPress dashboard. Now, you don't have to log into your Stripe account to run or manage your credit card or debit card transactions. The WooCommerce Payments plugin kind of brings it all together in the dashboard, and you can manage it all within your dashboard. Now, essentially, the WooCommerce Payments plugin uses Stripe as the payment processor, so the charges between both systems are nearly identical. So it looks like the WooCommerce team have done a deal with Stripe to run the payments, run those credit cards, run those debit card processes through Stripe, but they've branded it as WooCommerce Payments. And that's why the payments between Stripe and WooCommerce are nearly identical for those. However, there's a little bit of a difference. WooCommerce Payments, they charge an additional 1% for international card payments, which Stripe doesn't do. And that may make a big difference if you process a lot of those. So it could be something to consider when you're working out which payment system to use. Stripe still wins for flexibility though, to be able to customize your checkout and the whole experience and offer different types of payment types for those. So those are three things to consider. We've got PayPal, we've got WooCommerce Payments, and then we've got the Stripe Payment Gateway as well. Now we're going to be looking just at the Stripe Payment Gateway. So we're not looking at PayPal, we're not looking at the WooCommerce Payments, we're just looking at the Stripe Payment Gateway for WooCommerce today. Now, as a developer, I'm going to move back to this view. There we go. As a developer, I love Stripe and I trust it to take all my card payments. The Stripe Payment Gateway for WooCommerce, it also handles Apple Pay and Google Pay if you're on mobile devices. So you're kind of covered for all your transactions if your shop is, if your people are looking at your shop through mobile. So don't worry about that. Now, setting up Stripe requires a little bit of back and forth between the Stripe dashboard and the WooCommerce, but it's basically a one-time task. And once it's done, that's you're set up and you can take all those payments. Now, using Stripe as well, and yes, Stripe does go through the WooCommerce Payments plugin, the new one, but using Stripe natively, you get all those additional benefits that comes with Stripe. Things like 3D Secure, which is the prompt that your bank throws up to make sure you are the verified cardholder, and Stripe Radar as well. Now, Stripe Radar kind of watches in the background and it looks for fraudulent transactions. So, and it's really, really good at that. It's one of the top fraudulent transaction software, and that comes bundled with Stripe, as de facto. So, a lot of good stuff from Stripe, and that's why I'm happy to go with that. Okay, so configuring Stripe for WooCommerce. It's a lot easier to create and configure your Stripe account first before connecting it through WooCommerce. So if this is your first time, if you've not set up Stripe before, I suggest that you take the time to go and log into Stripe, create your account first, connect it with your business bank account. And then once that's all done, come back here and connect it through WooCommerce. Doing it all at the same time can get really confusing because there's a lot of backwards and forwards between Stripe and WooCommerce. So go ahead, set up your Stripe account first, connect with your bank account, do the transactions, verify the transactions. What Stripe will do, it'll deposit, like PayPal, it'll deposit a little bit of money, a few cents into your bank account, and then you read back the transaction ID and confirm that that's an official link. So that's the way you set up Stripe. And for that, so do that first, then come back here. So once you've got that done, make sure you install the WooCommerce Stripe payment gateway. It doesn't come with WooCommerce natively. Of course, WooCommerce bundles their own WooCommerce payments gateway now natively with the app. So you're going to need to install the Stripe payment gateway. And then once that's installed, you navigate to WooCommerce, settings, and payments. And that's what's showing on the screen just now. So here we've got the getting started with Stripe connection. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can enter your account keys. Those are API keys if you know what you're doing. So you can do that manually. Or there's a big button there that says create or connect to an account. And it kind of does it for you. So that's the easiest route. So if you've not done this before, if you've got your Stripe account set up, then click on the create or connect Stripe account. Now, the next thing you're going to be asked is to log into your Stripe account when prompted. Now, if you're already logged in with the browser, it might just go all the way through. Otherwise, it's going to ask for your email, your password, and if you're using two-factor or multi-factor authentication, which I urge you do with Stripe, you don't want other people getting into your bank account, then put all that detail in here just now. Now, if you have multiple Stripe accounts, if you're setting up yet another Stripe account, then it's going to ask you which account that you want to connect with your WooCommerce one here. So this is what's happening. So you've connected to your you've entered your Stripe password and email and password, your 2FA, and then gets directed back to WooCommerce, and then you're going to be asked about which account you want to do. If you don't have multiple accounts, it'll just go straight through from the first one. So make sure you set up the one that you want to connect with your WooCommerce shop. Okay, so once that's done, you're still in WooCommerce just now. And what's happened is now you've connected your Stripe account with your WooCommerce. We need to do a little bit of configuration before everything is set up and ready to go live. So the first thing here is it redirects you back to the payments and it redirects you to Stripe and the settings. So this is the settings for the Stripe payment gateway. And there's several sections in here. If this is your first time using Stripe, I highly recommend you check that enable test mode. So you can see here, it's in the general section, right at the top here, enable Stripe, and then right down underneath that, enable test mode. You don't want to go live straight away. You want to make sure that you connect into the right Stripe account, that everything's going through properly. So make sure you enable the test mode first. Okay. Now, you can, from this general section, you can rename the wording that's displayed on the checkout screen or just leave them as default as to what they're here just now. But you can change the name. For example, the default is credit card and then in brackets Stripe. And you can change the description as well, pay with your credit card via Stripe. And those are the options that you get to see when you're on the checkout screen. So you have the ability to rename those or just kind of leave them as is. But always recommend that you enable that test mode first. Okay, the next section, if you scroll down, is the account details section. And this section shows the status of your payments, your payouts, and your webhooks. And as you can see from the image here, I've not yet configured the Stripe webhooks. And this is kind of what this quickies is about. So it's showing a warning in this section here. It says, please enter the webhook secret key for this all to work properly. And then it's got a little bit down below. It says, add the following webhook endpoint. And that's shown for one of my test websites. And that's telling you the exact webhook. So all that HTTPS URL, that needs to go into your Stripe account. Okay, the next section down below is the payment and transactions. So in the payments and transactions sections, you can enable the use of safecards, for example, You can change the name that's displayed on the bank statements of your customers and other kind of transactional tweaks as well. So I generally leave the default settings as they are, unless your web shop's title is something a bit weird. Then it will pick up that and it'll probably put that into the bank statement. Otherwise, you can kind of go and tweak that just for your customers so they know exactly where that money is coming from. And this can really, really help with stifling and mitigating chargebacks. So when people are looking through their statement at the end of the month, if they don't understand something, then they could query that and charge back or try and cancel that transaction. If you make a really clear statement as to where it's come from, your shop, then there's less chances of them querying that as a dodgy transaction. So make sure that just kind of reflects who you are and what your shop is on the customer's statement. Okay, so let's get to the more difficult part of this setup. We'll talk about the webhooks here. So we've done the connection. We've connected WooCommerce to Stripe. So WooCommerce can now talk to Stripe, but as of yet, Stripe cannot talk back to WooCommerce. And this is where the webhooks come in. So let's go back to the account details section, and we've got that here. And as we say, we've got these three things: payments, payouts, and webhooks. And directly under that is the URL link that you need to copy into your Stripe settings. Now, for this one here, it's the HTTPS with the zpddemo.wordifysites.com with the question mark, wc-api equals wc_stripe. All of that, you need to make a copy, yeah, and then that's the link you need to put into your Stripe account. And there is a handy link as well for that. So there's a link just next to that. It says Stripe account settings with a little external thing. So click on that. And that's going to take you to your Stripe account and the exact place that you need to go to add in that webhook. Now, if you don't want to click on that, you can do it manually. So you can navigate to dashboard.stripe.com/account/webhooks. But that little link there next to the webhook there, that's going to take you directly to that place, as long as you're logged in with Stripe. So let's have a look. And this is where we start flipping between Stripe and WooCommerce. So now we've left WooCommerce. We're now in your Stripe account. So I have existing Stripe webhooks in my Stripe dashboard for other websites and other applications, which are all blurred because I don't want you getting my keys. But go ahead. There might not be anything in there for you if this is your first time. So what you need to do is at the top right-hand corner where it says Add Endpoint, you want to click on that and then enter your webhook URL from the WooCommerce Stripe settings in the previous slide into the endpoint URL field. So just like this. So this is what pops up when you click on the add endpoint. So here we've got the endpoint URL, which is the one from WooCommerce. So you've copied in that URL, the HTTPS with the question mark and all the stuff ending it from the back. And you can leave the description as a default if you want, or just leave in the description, just add something about your website just so you know where it's coming from. Last thing you're going to need to do is you need to add all the events. These are all the Stripe events that the webhook should listen for and then send back to WooCommerce. Now, let's just see. Click on the select events, the plus select events right at the very bottom, and then that's going to pop up this little dialog box. And let's just get rid of myself at the moment. Now, you can check select all events and save, and that's totally fine. If you want to know the exact events to listen for with WooCommerce at the time of writing, you can search for and check only those followings. And I've listed them on the right-hand side there. So it's source.chargeable, source.cancelled, charge.succeeded, all those all the way. I'm not going to list them all off, all the way down to setupintent.setupfailed. Now, those are the exact events that WooCommerce will listen for when Stripe is sending that information back, and then it'll do something accordingly. Now, if you've checked the select all events, all that means is that Stripe's probably going to send extra stuff to WooCommerce. WooCommerce is going to listen for it, but it's not going to do anything. It's only going to action those handful of events on the right-hand side there. So there's nothing wrong with checking select all events. But if you want to be exact, you want to save a little bit of processing power in your web server, then I would recommend, if you can, just find those events on the right-hand side and just check those. But again, nothing wrong with selecting all events if that's what you really want to. Now, if you This is obviously correct as of time of broadcast here, but if you want to check on the exact webhooks that WooCommerce supports with Stripe, then I've posted a link in the comments below. That's the WooCommerce webhook documentation, and that will list those exact webhooks and any more or less if that changes in the future. Okay, so we save all that stuff. Now we've got Stripe talking back to WooCommerce. Okay, good days. Now, for that's everything set up basically. If you want to connect to a different Stripe account, so this is something that someone asked me in the meetup.com. How would you go about, if you're already connected with Stripe with a WooCommerce website, how do you go about removing that Stripe account and moving it to a different Stripe account? So what you need to do here is navigate to your WooCommerce settings, payments, that's the payments tab there. Click on Stripe and then click on settings and you'll arrive at this page here. Now this is the same page we were looking at before, except we're in the settings tab for this one. So you want to go down the bottom and you want to click on the edit account keys. And that's where the arrow's highlighted. That's going to bring up this dialog box here. Now this pop-up currently holds the connected Stripe API keys for the live and the test, which is your sandbox accounts. When you are clicking for the first time, when you click that blue button, a few slides back, when you click connect to Stripe, and then you put in your email, your password, your 2FA, and it connects to Stripe, what that process is doing is automatically bringing in these API keys for your live. So your live publishable key and your live secret key, and the equivalents for your test as well. And that's how it connects to a Stripe account. So if you want to change that Stripe account, you need to go into this dialog box. I need to change these two keys with the new Stripe account. Okay, you need to change both the publishable key and the live secret key. So do this for both live and test. And remember to add the new webhook, if this is a new account, into your new Stripe account as well from WooCommerce. Now you can get the Stripe API keys. I'll just copy this down here from dashboard.stripe.com/API keys. So this is, you enter your new Stripe account, copy those keys, come back here, paste them in, save everything in Stripe, save everything in WooCommerce, refresh the dashboard, and that should redirect you from the old Stripe account into the new Stripe account. But what I would recommend doing is enable test mode, put through a transaction, jump back into your Stripe test account, and then just make sure that transaction is coming through, so you know that those WooCommerce transactions are now linked into the new Stripe account. Once you've got all that sorted, and you can use test cards for doing that, you don't have to pay. You can pay. You can put a transaction to yourself and refund yourself, or you can use a Stripe test card for that account. But once you can see that coming through in the test area, then you can then just go back into your WooCommerce Stripe settings, disable the test, and that's you live for that. And Steve says that was him. That was you, Steve, asking about changing different Stripe accounts. So fairly easy. Just go to that settings, go to this dialog box, and then log into your new Stripe account, copy those two keys in live, copy the two keys for test, do a test, and then that should be you done. That should be connected to a new Stripe account. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to start taking payments from WooCommerce using Stripe. Remember to disable test mode, of course, when you're ready to take live customer payments. Always check on that. Customers can now add their credit card details on your WooCommerce checkout. Stripe's going to process all those transactions, send information back to WooCommerce. Happy days. Everything will be in your dashboard in your WooCommerce. You'll be able to see all your payments, all your reports. Go into your Stripe dashboard as well. You'll be able to see all the transactions and the payouts as well for those. So setting up Stripe with WooCommerce is a relatively easy to follow step process, as long as you've got a process to follow, and it only needs to be done that once. So after properly configuring the payment gateway, your WooCommerce customers can now pay using credit cards, and now they've got all that protection as well that Stripe gives them in 3D secure payments as well, and the Stripe radar as well. Okay, so if you've got any questions, guys, please send me just now, and I'll try and answer them as is. But again, it's a fairly easy step process. As long as you've got that step process in place, just follow it, just do it once. Then that little added bit at the end, just be able to change accounts if that's what you want to do. Okay, while I'm waiting to see if any questions are coming through, happy to connect with you guys. I'm mostly, I'll get rid of myself there. I'm mostly on LinkedIn and Will Brown AU, on Instagram, Will Brown _AU, and on Twitter as well, Will Brown _AU for those. Check out my new website, willbrown.com. I'm starting to load some more stuff for WordPress business owners for there, and some courses are coming very, very soon for that as well. Let me just change this view. Okay, now, next week, I'm not here. I'm on holiday. Yay! Fingers crossed. I'm going up to Queensland with the family just for a little short break. So I've not queued up any WordPress quickies for that week. But the following week, so in 2 weeks' time, I'm talking about WordPress security, specifically usernames and passwords. That's on July the 14th. So please do join me if you're looking to beef up your usernames and passwords. I might talk about multi-factor authentication is there. So other than that, see you in a couple of weeks. Take care and join us then. See you guys.